Hello, Internet, and welcome to a retrospective, I don't know, review thing, I guess. I wanted to do reviews for all of the Ultimate games. Well, besides 9, probably, because that game sucks. And this seemed a good place to start. I hope you'll enjoy. The game we're going to be talking about today is Akalabeth, World of Doom. Although it's not technically an Ultimate game, both Lord British and the Ultimate community refer to it as Ultimate Zero. It's pretty much just a predecessor of the series as a whole, but we'll get to that in a minute. First released in 1979 for the Apple II, it's often considered one of the first computer role-playing games to be published for a personal computer. Richard Garriott, who uses Lord British as his alias since high school, developed Akalabeth on a teletype while in high school. It was the iteration of 30 or so other D&D type games for his computer based off of his Dungeons & Dragons pen and paper campaigns. But this one was a huge step up with 3D wireframe graphics. I know, right? Mind-blowing. The game was originally sold at a local computer store in Ziploc bags with Xerox instruction manuals. If you know what Xerox is, then you get bonus points. But a high-ranking employee at California Pacific Computer Company got a hold of a copy and wanted to strike a publishing deal with Garriott. He ended up netting over $150,000 his freshman year of college, and this was in 1980. He's definitely a return on investment. He claimed to have spent about 100 hours on development. I wish I could make that sort of money. With the history of this out of the way, we can talk about what you all actually care about. The game itself. I want to evaluate based on 4 criteria throughout this whole series. Plot, graphics and sounds, gameplay, and innovativeness. Now, most of these are pretty straightforward, but I thought that innovation was something that I should include because it's something the series is really kind of known for. I mean, they seem archaic today, but people had to upgrade their computers just to play these games. So now that I've set it up, we'll actually get to the game. Note that all the footage for this review was taken from the 1998 remake published with the Ultima Collection. And I'll try whenever possible to address the differences between this version and the original. I couldn't find a way to play the Apple II original, so this was the only real way I could play the game. The game starts off very simple, and surprisingly, as far as I can tell, the retcon in plot in this remake is actually connected to Garriott's original plans for the game. According to the manual released for the DOS remake, written by Warren Spector, quote, "The storyline is much disputed. It seems to have something to do with Mondain. It mentions this in the instruction menu of the original game. However, Richard Garriott himself was unable to explain to me how Mondain was linked to this game. So, they did the best they could here. I mean, they didn't want to try to completely redo the game and change the feeling, and I think they did well enough in this and a few other aspects. But I mean, that's all well enough. Computer games at this point barely existed as a genre. I mean, Oregon Trail came out around the same time, and the dialogue in that was limited to single lines, and there wasn't a plot, really. I mean, you just kind of had to have fun. I mean, the plots for the Ultima series really didn't arise till 3 and probably 4. These are just really about having fun, and they just kind of tried in the remakes to kind of retcon back in to tie to the continuum of the series. Once you launch the game up, you're asked to give a lucky number. I mean, I was just going to put in a fortune cookie number, but it turns out this is just a seed for world generation. And then your level of play, 1 through 10. I mean, if you play at level 10, so you supposedly get a better ending dialogue, but it doesn't really matter. The ending's not that important anyway. It's just a few lines of text. You can actually use this lucky number, though, to come back to the same generated map in another playthrough if you so desire. After that, the game gives you a set of randomly generated stats, which probably suck. So you can just hit no until you get some that are halfway decent. Really, I found just a high dexterity, strength, and gold to be the most important because you have to kill enemies, and gold is, as you'll see, is one of the most important things in the game. Well, the game was originally written in BASIC, so a lot of people just hacked the game so they could get overpowered stats and win. But there's other ways within the game, if you're not really into cheating, that you can use to jack your stats way up. Once you accept these stats, you choose between being a fighter or a mage. The fighter can use all the weapons, but the mage gets to use the magic ammo, which can make the game much easier to actually beat by jacking up stats and allowing you to use up and down ladder spells throughout dungeons. For character creation, you start the game in the shop, butt naked, unarmed, and only possessing a sack of gold pieces. Your first instinct might be to buy a bunch of weapons. It makes sense if you're going to kill monsters you need weapons. Word of warning, don't buy weapons first. Food is really the most important thing in this game. And you're going to need about 100 things of food to be able to find a dungeon and get through and get enough gold to come back and buy some more. If you don't buy food, the moment you exit the shop, you literally just drop dead. And the moment you run out of food, you just die in this game. I guess it's kind of funny sometimes, but it's unfortunate if you're 2 levels down in a dungeon and you run out of food. Luckily, in this remake, they added a save feature, which is really, really helpful because this game can get brutal at times. Once you get through all this, you're dropped onto the world screen, which is really just some tiles of simple characters that represent shops, dungeons, and Lord British's castle. Sometimes a seeded map will end up with all these things spread way far apart from each other, but usually it's not a large issue. The first thing you want to do is hop into a dungeon, which is the real meat of this game. The halls and rooms are represented in 3D wireframe perspective, as I mentioned before, and the enemies are represented by these type of line drawing graphics. It's all pretty well done and impressive considering when it came out, and if you don't recognize what an enemy is, the game will tell you what it is, but it's usually pretty straightforward. Also, at this point, if you've been playing the remake, you've heard the delightful, cheery MIDI music that plays throughout the game. Take a listen. This music appears to be from some of the earlier Ultimate games, as far as I can tell. There wasn't any music on the DOS original. I really just think there wasn't enough room on the disc. And I think it's a wonderful and tasteful addition to this port, which only adds to the original experience and atmosphere. If you want to play in silence, you can, but why? For every monster you kill, you get gold pieces, and you can also pick up items and gold from chests spread throughout the dungeons. When you exit a dungeon, you gain some hit points based off of how many enemies you've killed, and you'll probably want to go back up and restock on some more food and weapons. Once you feel you have enough gold and HP to feed yourself and stay alive, you can head over to Lord British's castle, which is conveniently a giant box with an X inside of it. He'll give you a small stat boost and a mission to kill a fairly weak creature, probably like a skeleton or something like that if your stats aren't very good. After you do this, you can come back over and over and he'll give you increasingly difficult missions, until you have to go kill a Balrog. For goodness sakes, Gandalf barely took one of those down, and I have to do that just to become a knight? Sheesh. One thing you'll probably notice after a decent amount of playtime is how easy it is to get lost 8 levels deep into a dungeon, and then while you're trying to find out, get teamed up on and killed, or have all your food stolen by a gremlin. Gosh, those are dirty cheats. They take like half your food in every hit. Luckily, most enemies aren't very good at hitting you. You could go to the trouble of mapping out each level of the dungeon and finding your way back that way, but it really is much easier to play as a mage, buy a crap ton of magic amulets, and use the ladder up and down spells to navigate between the levels. I'll tell you, that's what I ended up doing. I played as a fighter for about 3 hours, and I just got so frustrated that I restarted as a mage, and the game got much easier. Overall, I enjoyed playing this game, even if it was frustrating getting lost levels deep in a dungeon, and the ending wasn't really worth it. I guess the sheer difficulty is what helps squeak out extra playtime from this game, and it's really more about the experience than trying to get to the ending. I found the interface and controls to be nice, and pretty straightforward. And if you don't know command, the manual is about 6-page PDF that you can find online. Combat's pretty simple. Sometimes it's frustrating because you'll miss a lot, but most of the time the enemies are missing more often than you are. And the experience to be straightforward. Really, I think this game still has broad appeal to this day. I mean, if you want to go back and see one of the very first computer role-playing games, and it's free on GOG.com, the predecessor to arguably the greatest CRPG series ever, should be right up your alley. If you have a kid, maybe 5, 6, you want to introduce to RPGs, this is probably about as simple as you can get. And if you want a really old school, bare bones, almost roguelike and punishing dungeon crawler, just crank this difficulty all the way up to 10, turn the lights down, and enjoy this one. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Be sure to like the video and leave a comment with feedback, positive or negative. I'm open to both. And if you really want to see the rest of this My Ultimate Review series and other content, make sure to subscribe. I don't know. It'll probably take me a few weeks before I can get to Ultima 1, depending on schoolwork and how hard of a time I have with the game. And we'll see. I want to try to have a few of the games done by the end of the school year. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.